Welcome to our webinar, Creating Engaging Apps with InDesign and App Studio. My name is Matthias Günther, I'm a product manager for Quark, and I'm going to lead you through this webinar today. So what are we going to look at? I'm going to introduce you to the new App Studio, which enables you to use InDesign, or Quark Express, or XML, or HTML5. Mostly what I'm going to concentrate on is InDesign today. So which enables you to take InDesign, create engaging content, use the typical layout tools and design tools that you know from InDesign, enrich them with interactivity, movies, videos, audio, and then export that as 100% HTML5 content. And that content then is being displayed in a native app, either on iOS or iPhone, iPad, on Android phone, Android tablet, or Kindle Fire. And this way you can create pixel perfect designs and still benefiting from HTML5 with all the advantages, being a standard, being open, being much smaller, having smaller file sizes and stuff like that. So that's an important thing to understand when I talk about content is 100% HTML5 based. We're not talking about responsive design or anything that reminds you of a web browser where when you turn the tablet or when you display content on a different tablet, that content shifts or moves or looks different than you designed it. App Studio uses HTML5 for pixel perfect designs and layouts. So everything looks exactly the same way how you designed it. Nothing is moving. It's the way you want it to appear, regardless on which device you display that and which orientation you're using. And I'm going to show you some examples before we jump into software. And obviously there is no need to code HTML5 yourself. Everything is done using visual tools within InDesign. And of course, if you want to, you can always add HTML5 from an external program, maybe for more advanced animations from Edge or from Hype or other tools that create HTML5. If you don't want to, you can just completely stay in InDesign and the HTML5 is created for you. So before we look at some apps or jump into software, let's quickly look at how App Studio actually works. You can use a design package, InDesign or Quark Express. You can use a development package, HTML5 packages, or you can automate content by using an XML stream or using a content management or editorial system. And what you do is you push that to the App Studio cloud where you manage all your content, and then when you're finished, what's happening is everything gets deployed out of the App Studio cloud and is being put onto the devices that you decided for. And the devices are iOS, Android, and the Kindle Fire platform. So you can go for all of them or just for one. It's really your choice. And the way you do that in InDesign is really easy. You create your content in InDesign, you enrich it, then you upload that to the App Studio cloud where you manage it. You basically do a page plan where you can start arranging pages the way you want it, because everything can be either in one InDesign document or in several InDesign documents, or you can actually mix and have some pages being created automatically by an XML stream. And once you're happy with it, then you just push it to any device and can sell it via the online stores. And that's an important thing for this webinar here. Of course, we're going to show you how you can publish your content to the various app stores, but we're not going to do that in this webinar. So today's webinar is about how to create content. Well, first, how you set up the portal, how you design your pages in InDesign, and how you add interactivity. Then the second step, how you upload that, test your content, how it will look like within the portal, and test it on your device, for example, an iPad. In the second part of our webinars, we're going to show you how you can create the app where your content will be displayed and how you can upload that to Apple or other stores. Before we start, let's actually look at pricing. For InDesign, there's going to be two prices: the premium multi-issue, which gives you one publication. You can decide whether it's kiosk or single. If you decide for a kiosk, which is typically the perfect choice for a periodical, so something that is published several times. It could be the weekly magazine, the daily newspaper, or the quarterly report, or bookshelf, anything where you want to update the content dynamically, not have to go through Apple's review process except for the very first time, and then have one app where your customers see new content appearing and the content, the previous content, also to be accessible. The typical magazine, newspaper, corporate brochure, bookstore kind of scenario. A single app is an app where the content is embedded in the app. So of course you can update that, but you need to update the whole app and then push through, and previous content will not be available. You have the choice of different platforms, so you can go to all of the major platforms here: iPad, iPhone, Kindle Fire, Android phone, Android tablets. And if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you can also link to a subscriber database to your own customer relationship management. So that's great if you want to sell subscriptions that don't go through Apple's store. You have a business rule maybe that all of your print subscribers get the digital edition for free. So that's a great option here to have. Also, this plan includes 2,500 issue downloads per month. Since the content is hosted on our servers, there's a download that will happen, and you have 2,500 downloads included. If you look at other vendors, that's typically a $500 value that you get there for just the downloads. And of course, you're not restricted to 2,500 downloads. You can buy additional downloads if you want to. And you'll get all of that for $495, or you can see the other currency prices here, per month. If you do an annual commitment, of course, there's monthly models also available. And if that's not enough for you, there's also the enterprise or the agency model, which allows you to actually add custom features to your app, something that maybe just one client of yours needs, and you want to have that in there. Allows you to do XML automation, gives you volume discounts if you have multiple apps or publications. And also there is the self-hosting option available for enterprise and agency, which means if you want to host the app content yourself, you can do so within that plan, and then of course no download fee apply anymore because it's hosted on your servers. And if you're interested in that plan, give us a call, because we need to specifically talk what feature you want, and then we can give you a quote there. Okay, so I think we're ready to start. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you the App Studio portal that you need to set up your publication and to create issues and then upload content to that. So before you can start, you need to set up an account on appstudio.net. Just put in your email address and you create an account. The first thing that the system will do is it will send you an activation mail, and you need to confirm your email address here. So I already prepared that, and the first thing you need to do after confirming your email address is fill in some details: your company name, industry, whatever you are in, the size of your organization, and the country. Let's see, let's take United Kingdom. Next, so email address, my first name, last name, I think it's really self-explanatory, and of course a password. I'm going to use InDesign. Terms of use, you can click on and read them, or of course you should before you accept them. See the terms of use, and then you can just say create, and you're ready to go. So what you see here is the main view to the portal. You see your publications, your users, and the settings. You don't have a publication yet, and this is what is telling me to get started here. So before we do anything else, let's just create my publication, and I'm going to call that my publication. And here the location is very important to specify. It basically tells you where your data is being stored in which Amazon S3 bucket. And if you have maybe legal requirements that you can't store outside of Europe, then please choose Europe here. I'm going to create this publication. It's created. You can see it's a 30-day trial. And if I want to, of course, I could go to upgrade here, and that's where you see the pricing plans and whether they apply and stuff like that. Well, we're not ready to pay yet. We want to test. So I'll go back to my publication. The publication will have some issues, so I'll create my first issue, and that's maybe my December issue. Subtitle, first try with App Studio. Deadline, when do I need that? Maybe beginning of December. Description and stuff like that. I'm only set up for iPad right now. We're going to look at that in a second, how to add more platforms. So I say create, and you can see here is my publication setup with the first issue. Let's have a look in there. There's of course no content in there yet. And if I want to add content from external programs like HTML5 applications, for example, then I can do that here. And of course, I don't want to do that here. I want to show you how to do that from InDesign. To actually get the InDesign plugin that later on allows you to upload your content, this is the place to go. So if you click here on download, that's where you will get the InDesign plugin that allows you to use App Studio. So do that if you haven't already done so. Okay, so let's go back to my publication. There is several things in the portal that I can still administer here. And one thing, of course, is the app manager. And that's where I'm going to either build the app, which we're also going to look at in the second part of our webinar, so next week, and where also, depending on what plan I have, can add the other devices, the other platforms that I want to publish to. Very nice also is that I can add users to my platform here, to my publication. So if you're not the only one working on that publication, I can invite a user. I am admin here, so maybe I can add our designer and I'll make him designer so that he can contribute. So with several people, we can actually create different sections or individual pages and then later on combine them to one big app or app content. It's also very nice that I can add testers here. Testers could be your customers. So if you want your customers to only be able to test and view content but not change content, this is how you set them up. So designer is invited. We need to wait until he accepts and then he can start designing. There's a few settings that I can still do. I'm not going to go into that in detail. It's also in the second part of our webinar. So display name again. Do I only want portrait or only landscape in my digital publication? That's a valid concern or a valid choice to make depending on how much content you have and what kind of content. So if you look at the Metro newspaper, because they're publishing daily and they have a pretty tight schedule every time to get out an app, they decided to go landscape only, and that's a valid choice. Or what we're going to do here is, of course, do portrait and landscape at the same time. Hosting, so if you have self-hosting booked, you can change that here. Notification, XML content is something we're going to look at later. Also, the one thing I want to show you here still is sections. So a section could be, for example, in your publication, it could be politics, and you want to mark that in a certain color. And I'm going to add something else, sports maybe. Give that a blue, like this. Or if you maybe a corporate publication, annual reports, and maybe we give that a nice orange, like this. And I'll save that, and please remember them. I'm going to use them later on. And then billing, we've just seen, that is where you choose the other plans. So that's basically everything I need to do and need to set up. I can of course create more publications here and start creating more issues and edit them by giving them here some meta information that I already filled out. Okay, so for my portal, I'm basically set up. The next step I need to do is I need to now fill that with content. And that of course means InDesign. So I want to add content with InDesign. So the first thing I will do is I'll just create a new document. You should really choose the intent here for digital publishing. Beside many advantages, the big advantage is everything changes to pixels here, and that's what you're really going to design in. The iPad is already set up here. What I will do is I will change it slightly, because of course you will still have the OS bar, so the menu bar of iOS of the iPad, and you don't want to have content underneath there. So I'm going to do that. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the margins, 44 at the top, at the bottom 35, and the rest is 00. Of course you can put content there. I just want a nice guide that shows me that when I navigate, and you'll see that later, there is certain navigational bars that overlap that content. So maybe I don't want to put the most important content there. So that's important for me. Okay, say OK. And I have my first document here. And you can see that I've created a portrait. If I now want to have also a landscape view, what I will do is I will set up a new master page, and this master page will have portrait view, and here I want 768, and again 1004 just for the menu bar, and then I just drag that in here. And that's really how I'm designing. So I have two pages here, one landscape, one portrait, and the system is going to figure out which is which automatically, so I don't have to set it up and then design for the different orientations. And actually there is a difference between CS5 and 5.5 versus CS6, because InDesign added alternative layouts in CS6. One of the big differences that you have to do or should do when you use CS6 is that you use alternative layouts for the different devices, and you can't do that with CS5 or 5.5. There's a few other things I need to do. App Studio for InDesign works with a certain layer convention. If you find that too time tedious to set that up, go look at the website and download the InDesign template. Everything is already set up there, so you can start right away. Okay, and that's not what I really want to do. I don't want to start with a document from scratch. What I want to do here is I want to take you through some documents. So what I have here is a static layout basically, and on this one I just want to show you how you actually set up things. So I have some text boxes here, and of course since we're exporting HTML5, this is going to be live text. Sometimes though it is important that text maybe does get rasterized. One of the reasons could be that maybe you're using features that HTML5 doesn't support yet, maybe heavy kerning and something like that, and you still want that visual appearance to be on your app layout. Another reason could be maybe you're using a really exotic font and your font vendor doesn't allow you to embed that in native apps, which could be the case. And then of course you want this text not to be live text. The way App Studio does that is it works with layers. So if you look at the layers panel up here, you can see I have certain layers here. Ignore the text animations, I'm not using that. Look at the other ones. Layer 2, the red stuff, that's really where I put all of my content that stays live text or whatever. The only special layer I have is this dash background. So everything I put on dash background does actually get rasterized. So if I want this big text box here to be rasterized, all I need to do is I need to select it and then just move that from this layer to this layer, and now it will get rasterized. And if I put it back on my red layer, that's when I will actually have live HTML5 text. So how do I actually export that to App Studio so that it becomes HTML5? When we're going to look at more interactive features, you will notice that App Studio doesn't introduce new panels. You use the native InDesign methods to specify interactive content, so multi-state objects for buttons and animations and stuff like that. We're going to look at that in detail. The only panel that gets added is the App Studio exporter, and you can see that here. So what I do here is I will use this panel to log into my system. I'm going to do that now. I have my work folder here. I say next. I'm going to put in my username, which is com, and then I just log in. Next thing I need to do is I need to change my organization, which is going to be my company UK, my publication, and I finish, and then I'm logged in. I have a validate button that I can use to validate things. There's no errors, so that's good for me. And then I select December issue, that's the only issue I've set up, and say upload to App Studio. Well, first, of course, I should save, upload to App Studio. And now my document gets uploaded, converted to HTML5, and I can see that in the portal, and that's what I want to show you next. Just waiting for this to go up into the portal. So let's switch to the portal. I'm going to look at my content, and you can already see that I have my first page live, and there's certain buttons when I mouse over my page. One is I can edit meta information. That can be deleting the page. I see my portrait and landscape view here. I can give it a title. For example, I could say this is my cover page. I can add authors. Here I can actually put in my sections that I've set up beforehand, social networking, all the stuff we're going to talk about later in the other webinar. I'm just going to do this, add my section. I'm going to refresh my page, and you can see now this is marked in red, politics, and we also see that in the app afterwards. So first button to actually edit some meta information that I have here. Then preview. That's the nice thing. Since this is HTML5, everything is HTML5, you can actually see a preview in the browser without needing any plugin. And you probably noticed that I had a little animation coming in here. I forgot that I set that up. So let's first go to landscape. I'm going to show you later how to do animations, but not for now. For now, I just wanted to show you what I've done here. So I've created my first page. You can see this is all text, so it's HTML5 text, so it's searchable, stays really small, everything that you need from HTML5. And I have my first content created for my app. Static content, but that's okay because it was my first step. And what I want to do is I now want to add more pages into that also have interactivity. So back to InDesign. Maybe the next thing I'll show you is hyperlinks. Hyperlinks could be either linking to an email or to a web page, or it could actually be linking within the same app layout to jump to the next page or to jump to a certain page that you specify. And that's really easy to do. So all I need to do is I need to actually set up some buttons here. So I have created a picture box here, an empty one. I've created this as a button, and it just says go to URL mail to info.quark.com at info.quark.com. Same thing for web pages. So what you can see is I create a button, go to URL, and URL is specified here. For page links, it's very similar. So what you do is you create a button, can be invisible. It's just basically your hot area that you touch, and then you jump there, and you can see the button here on release, go to URL. Just here, because I want to jump within my app, I'm not going to put a real URL. What I do is a special one. I just say navigate to page, and then I take the page name that I have on the portal, and the page number 1 here is the first one of that section. So that's how I can actually navigate between pages, even when my whole app content is split up between different InDesign documents, that I can jump in between them. And that's really the whole trick, how you create these kind of things. And then you can, of course, upload that. I'll use that to upload that again to my portal. Okay, next thing I want to show you is videos and audio while this is uploading here. So video and audio is a great way of putting elements in here that make your app feel a bit more interactive. And again, same thing here that you do is you basically use native InDesign panels to upload content here. For that, I'm going to open the interactive panel media, and in here in media you can see that when I want to add audio, I'm going to just put a picture box over here and then link that with audio, so I can listen to that and I can stop that. So when I place this here, you're going to have the typical kind of controller thing. So there's another button that you can see here, and that is actually opening a pop-up. I'm going to show you that in a second. Before we look at that, is have a look here. I put a video in here that will show you some action, something moving, and what I do here is I actually embed the video by using that method. So that makes my App Studio file quite large, but it's also available for offline view. If I don't want that, I would use a hyperlink to actually specify the video so that it doesn't get embedded. Okay, so let's upload this and have a look how this looks like in our portal. Validate this maybe beforehand. Yeah, there is some warnings that I'm getting here, and the warnings is that there is non-RGB color spaces. That doesn't really matter. App Studio does an automatic conversion for you so that everything is RGB. This is just a warning there for the yellow button so that you know, okay, there is going to be an automatic conversion happening. So if I don't want that to happen, then maybe I should do that manually and convert that myself. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to upload this now to App Studio. And while this is uploading, let's switch to the portal. So what you can see in the portal is our hyperlinks document has already uploaded. So when I go and preview this, my hyperlink, I can see my text. I can send us an email. I could tab on visit web link. Of course, it will work. It's HTML5, so I will stay within the browser here. I'm here. And page link I can't show you because I don't have that page created. So that's really how this worked. And while we're waiting for the video page to upload, which might take a while, I'm just going to talk a bit about how this upload is going to work. Uploading, basically, we're using a technology that can find out the differences between the page that's already online and the page that is currently being created and uploaded. And of course, for the very first time I upload this might take a long time just because my video is quite large and that needs to be uploaded. For every other modification that I do, App Studio is just going to look at the differences that were done and just send these differences to the App Studio cloud so that it takes not so much time every consecutive upload or change that you're doing here. And while I was talking, you could see suddenly there is a page appearing, so that is uploading or was uploaded, the XML out of InDesign, and now the cloud is creating the HTML5 out of that. Should that not happen automatically, you can always use then the compile button up here to manually compile everything, or if a certain page didn't render correctly and there is no green check mark here, you can actually compile a page by itself so that it's proper HTML5 content again. So let's wait for this to actually render. Okay, there we are. So preview, look at our audio, play audio. Play video. And that's how our preview worked. So next thing, let's have a look at pop-ups. What are pop-ups? Pop-ups are a great way of actually creating a user experience where the user still knows, or the reader still knows, where they are within your digital publication. If you use something like page stacks or any other method, then often readers don't know where they are because they kind of swiped away, and if they go left and right and back and forth and you're giving them different content, it's very hard to kind of recognize where you are. So for an ideal storytelling, pop-ups are a great way of doing that, because pop-ups keep you on the same page but still give you additional content. And the way I created content here is, as additional content, this pop-up is, I created a button. Let's have a look at the button. And the button here says, on release, open, and the URL is quite special again. It's layer pop-up dash create pop-ups. And what you can see is there is exactly a layer with that name, pop-up, create pop-ups. And by default, these pop-ups don't get exported, they're not visible. They're only visible when somebody opens it with a button. And what you can see is they are just InDesign layers. So anything I can design with InDesign is possible as a pop-up. So this is a very conservative looking pop-up. So what I can do is I could create more drop shadows, use transparency, use a non-rectangular form maybe, and really use this to show optional content to my readers. And I can of course again have interactivity, so put videos or audio or slideshows or whatever you have on there. And when I export that and somebody tabs it, then this layer is actually opening. So when I show you another thing, let's just, I always forget to save my documents first. So upload, let's just look at this, how this looks in the cloud. I talked about slideshows. So let's move to slideshows next. So what we're doing here is we want to give our reader a slideshow that they can swipe through and see more than one picture. The standard way of how to create these elements in InDesign is actually object states. Object states just means that you have all these different pictures within one picture box. And that's really all you need to do. And then App Studio is going to create a slideshow out of that. Again, upload this. I saved it first. And let's have a look how this will look like in our portal. You can see there's also a pop-up here that shows during export. So in the portal, first thing I wanted to show you is my pop-ups. So if I go to page pop-up, you can see I have additional content here, and when I tab on this how to create pop-up, you can see the pop-up is appearing and is vanishing again. So a great way of adding this additional content. And the fifth one that I uploaded here, the fifth page, is just arriving, and that was a way to look at slideshows. And again, since this is HTML5 content, I can easily view this in a browser, preview this in a browser, and even have the slide experience that my app would give me. So far I've been previewing everything in the browser, I'm going to show you one case where I actually would like to see that on an app, not only in an app, not only to get this feeling how an app will feel like, because it's different to simulate maybe a swipe behavior with a mouse than having the same experience with the finger. But there is certain things like a pinch zoom that the browser is not passing to the app content. So there I really need to actually see my content and test my content in an app. So here's my slideshow, and you can see if I now go through this, I can actually swipe through my slideshow and have a look at that. So let's have a look at this pinch zoom, where I would use that. So for that, let's go to picture zoom. And picture zoom, what I've done here is I have a quite large image that I enlarged and cropped so that it's much bigger than my page actually. And I put a little indicator here so that people can see what this will be. And the way I did that is all I need to do is I need to add a picture and do a button and then say select file here, and then this happens actually automatically. So let's upload this and have a look how this pinch zoom will look like. But I'm not going to view that in the browser. I'm actually going to view that in a little test app that I have on my iPad. So let's first start uploading that. So what you see here is my iPad, and I have my App Studio Previewer app in there. I see user guide, and what I need to do here now is I need to log in with the exact same email address that I've used before. And that's a great way also of letting your customers see what you've created. And for my password, I'm just going to blank my screen. I'm logging in. Choose my publication. And I don't see anything. Well, where's the mistake? Let's go back to the portal. And what I need to do first is I need to go back here to my December issue, and I actually need to press the little button test here. What this will do is it will package it now so that an app can actually display this HTML5 content. And I just need to wait for this to finish, and then we can actually have a look at that in our test app. Okay, done. And I will refresh this, and then you can see our first app content. I'm going to download all of these pages, including the videos and everything that we had here, and then we can look at this. Okay, it's going to process and should be finished now. View. And now you can actually see all of our app content that we have seen before. So here is my first app, there's my links, and I can actually use a little navigator down here. And you can see my politics section that I have set up here. Maybe have a look at the slideshow. So here's my slideshow, the way I did it. The only thing I want to do here now is I actually want to show you this picture. And I will pinch zoom now. I can move it around. So a really nice way of getting my reader to see some more detail about my picture. So it doesn't really matter where you preview it. There's a few examples where you have to preview it in an app, but typically you can preview both or on both platforms, so browser and app. Okay, so don't think we have so much more time. I have 45 minutes set up for this webinar, so I think I'm going to slowly come to an end. One last thing I want to show you. There's actually still quite some nice effects that I haven't shown you, but one thing I promised you in the very beginning was the introduction. And what we had here is we had set up animation. And this animation here that starts to run was actually done as a native InDesign animation. So if I select this, you can see in the animations panel that basically this is using a preset custom fly-in from right. And that's the nice thing that App Studio does with animations. You can use any animation here above this little dash here, and they will not export as Flash as the standard out of the box InDesign would do. They actually translate into native animations, native HTML5 animations. So you don't need an animation package that creates HTML5 animations. Just use native InDesign effects, apply them, and then App Studio is going to create an HTML animation out of that. Okay, so let's wrap up. What have we seen? I haven't shown you all of the features that App Studio allows you to do. There is more. I haven't shown you 360 images. We've seen the most of the other one, carousel, vertical scrolling pages I didn't show you. Flip page is a very nice effect that you can do, or geolocation. So if you're interested in that, go to our website. We're slowly adding training videos, and we're going to explain each of these features in detail. If you have more questions, please feel free to send us an email. My email address is down here, and you can go to appstudio.net and actually test the software free of charge for 30 days, and you can do all of the stuff that I've shown you. And don't forget to watch the second part of this webinar where we're going to show you more about app creation. Thank you very much.